Hello fellow coding rabbits, and welcome to live coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Let's see here. So just before we get started, I need to check the quality of the stream on a different device, make sure that I'm getting enough up speed to YouTube, because OBS is freaking out right now and it's giving me all types of low bandwidth meter reads and stuff. So give me 1 second, and I'm just gonna check this out really quick. Thanks for tuning in, and stand by. I'll be right back.
So busy, and all we were doing was making nice, delicious coffee on the street, no branding, on purpose no branding, because we didn't want any barriers. There was no door, no windows. People could walk into the espresso machine, see what we were doing.
Alright, thank you for your patience on that. It looks like everything is a-okay, so we're gonna see what happens here. So thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Live Coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. My name is Sean. We don't have a camera today because we're in transition right now, so sorry about that, but that's alright. We got the best of audio worlds and at least the code on the screen, so that's something right there. Today is episode 11 of the Vue Basics series. We're going to talk about Vuex more in depth, and specifically how to use it in different ways, and kind of just go through things a little bit more in depth than we did last week. Last week we kind of scratched the surface and introduced Vuex state management, and went pretty well, and we got up and running with the new Vuex store and whatnot. But now we're just going to kind of go in and do it a little bit more, see what all we can do. And specifically with that, we're also going to take a look at the map helper functions that we get using Vuex, and specifically we'll talk about this further into the stream, but what map helper functions basically do in a nutshell is allow us to easily import multiple pieces of our Vuex store, whether it be a getter or action state piece and whatnot, or state property, multiple of those items into an instant or a Vue component in kind of like one object or one array, sort of, versus writing out a computed property and like individual methods that call the actions and whatnot over and over again. So it can help with reusability and whatnot. So we're gonna take a look at that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get started. So Vuex in depth. Okay, so we have a basic understanding of Vuex. What it does, and greatly improves our state application management, and we've looked at some basic examples. So we looked at kind of like how to set up a Vuex store and like how to do things on Vuex's side, and we just kind of scratched the surface more on like how to use it inside of our Vue components. So we're going to take a little bit more focused look on that in today's stream, specifically working with all of the well, I should rephrase that. Specifically, we're going to be looking at working with state, getters, and actions inside of our Vue components, because if we remember from last episode and Vuex best practices, we don't want to it's not recommended to call mutations directly from the Vue components. It's always best to call an action that calls a mutation, and it'll help, if anything, because like we'll talk about again as further into the stream, but actions are asynchronous and mutations are not. So mutations, if we call them directly, we may run into errors more times than not with like undefined and whatnot. So all right, enough talk, let's get started. So we have our state stuff right here, and basically, let's see, what do we want to do? So we talked about, I'm going to pull up this, not blog container, but we're going to work inside of our custom event sandbox again today. I'm going to bring these over here, take a look at them. Actually, bring this one over there. And cool, let's see. what are we up to? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna try and open this up. Oh, and the elephant in the room. Sorry, people, about the lack of streaming in the last couple of weeks and the lack of communication. Have been going through some transitions and changes and stuff in life, so that's kind of been taking the front seat. And haven't had my computer for a while, but it's back. And we're all set up. I got a brand new setup, new desk and everything, so we're feeling funky fresh on that aspect. So again, apologize about the lack of content, but we are back and we'll be bringing out more stuff as we go along, and hopefully a lot more because my schedule has opened up quite significantly. So not quite significantly, I shouldn't say that. I'll still be pretty busy doing other things, I guess, but I'll have more time to focus on streaming and stuff, so it'll be cool. Glad to focus things. So what am I doing? I don't want to do this. I'm going to Vue Basics, Custom Events, Sandbox. I'm just going to open that whole project directly. Oops, probably should have kept that open. That's all right. Let's take a look at the terminal. Does this have our changes in it? Yeah, it looks like it. So it's not pushed or anything. That's fine. Let's just say git add all, git commit -m, update, converted to Vuex store. Cool. All right, so let's take a look at our store, and if we refresh our memory, we have basically, let's spin up this site first of all. npm run serve to spin up our local dev server. And while that's spinning up, I'm gonna bring in my our guide for this episode. And let's give that a nice split off here. Open that up as so. All right, cool. So let's see here. One thing we're going to take a look at is specifically will be, let's see here. We'll look at how getters are more so computed properties for Vuex store. Yeah, sorry people, I'm a little rusty right now. Forgive me. All right, so let's pull this. Oops, pull this over. So this is the custom event sandbox that we converted over to using Vuex. So basically we select a color from the child component, set it, or whoops, not add to custom colors, but select OK and send it to the parent, and it changes the background color. All right, cool. So we have a store in here. What if we wanted to, let's see. Let's open up Vuex. What we can say is, let's put our default color in here. Oops, color such as that, and we'll just give it a random color. Actually, I want to do something a little darker. Oops, not S. There we go. Cool. Just like that, and let's have we'll have color names, and we'll have, oh, actually this is gonna be, we're gonna want it to be an array. Oh, there we go. All right, so we have a color names array, and we'll do aquamarine. And then, oh, actually, you know what? Forgive me, I'm super rusty, so. All right, let's do this. Object, and we're gonna have an array of objects, and inside of here we'll have the name, and it will be aquamarine, right? And we'll have an isFav boolean, so that'll be set to true in this case. All right, and let's just we'll duplicate this a couple times, change this to yellow, and it is not, and then we'll change this to bright green, and we'll say true. Okay, cool. So now we have an array of objects containing our names of our favorite colors, and if or some colors, and if they're our favorites or not. Cool. So what we can do in this case is, so we could totally come into, let's say let's create a new component, and we'll call it colors list.view. All right, and then sc tab to scaffold out an empty view component for us, and then inside of here we'll just do color list or color dash list. Jeez. And dot. Oh, actually, we're not have Flexbox pulled in here, so we're just gonna do that. So div color list, and oops, I'm gonna do outer just to be sure. And then inside of here, we'll do a ul dot color list inner, and this is so you can just use Flexbox to space stuff out. And I hope this stream is working. Anyways, we'll just keep going. All right, so inside of here we will have our our list item, and we can do this color item and tab that out. Cool. So what we want to do is now we're gonna pull in what we can do. Well, I'm just trying to think of a demonstration purpose, but I think what we'll do is just pull everything in. So, okay. Inside of here, okay, so we can start by writing a computed property. Computed, open up that object. And inside of there, we'll have color list, and that will return this dot $store dot state dot color list, just like that. Now if we v4 this li, just like that, scaffold it out just slightly. So if we v4 this and say color color in color list, and then we have to of course give it a key, so we'll just bind key equals let's say color, just like that, color dot name. So it's a what is it? What do they call it? A primitive data structure or data item? Okay, so, and now we can just say color.name in here. And so let's look at what we got now. So, oops, we already have it open. Bring it in here. We need to bring our component in actually. So, inside of the parent component, oh, actually, you know what? Let's, instead of doing it in the parent component, we are going to do it, close this outline, that's ridiculous. We're going to do it just inside the app.view. So inside of here, .view, fix that so the linter is somewhat more happy, and then we'll do color. We'll just do color list to make it everything named the same. Color list from dot slash, and it's going to be in our component slash color list, just like that. Say dot view and give it a semicolon. And then we have to, of course, register it on our Vue instance. So inside the components object, we're gonna sit there. Oh, we're gonna type in there color list, just like that. And then underneath this parent component, let's see what we have here for header wrapper. I think it's going to put it on the right of it, but what is this? Oh, no, center and flex direction column on the actual app itself. Okay, so underneath the parent component, we will just say color list, just like that, self-closing. And now if we take a look at our component, we should have maybe a couple things in here. Let's take a look and see what's going wrong. Inspect. Nothing's going wrong. Well, what is not loading properly? Let's see what we have in our elements. Div app color list outer. It's in there. It just doesn't have. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Let's take a look at view our components app. Color list. Color list is undefined, so let's see, why is that undefined? Take a look at store. Oh, because it's not color name, color list, it's color names in here. So let's just do color list, just like that. Now we should have a working thingamabob. All right, cool. We have it right there, and okay, cool. And then inside of this, I just want to actually take this color list, write the class out for it, and I just want to text align everything to the left. And then I want to give the color just a little bit of size, so I'll do min height and do 30 view height, and then min, we'll just give it a solid or a hard coded width of 30 view width. That should give us a little bit of something to work with here. Cool. All right, so and then what I want to do is just set this to display flex, and then justify content center and align items center, just like that, and that should give us everything in the center. All right, cool. Nice. All right, so let's get to it now. So we have this in there, and we're just pulling it, the array in of objects in from our state, right? And or our store. And you can see, remember, we have an array of objects with containing our colors, our color list, whatnot. So what if we wanted to just pull in what's, you know, only our favorite colors? Well, we could do that inside of our computed property here, but say we wanted to have that in other places in our Vue instance, in another component. Well, we'd have to write that same logic in that component as well. And simpler way to do this is to use a getter inside of Vuex, which we can essentially think of as Vuex's computed properties. So we can run some code in there. We don't have to just do an implicit arrow return like that. We can actually open this up and it can be a full function. We can run some implicit or some code in there and return some sort of value at the end of it, as long as it's some sort of single evaluated expression and whatnot. So all of this will be covered in the guide if you want to go look at it after the fact as well, so no problem on that. And what we'll do here is we have our get active color. Underneath that, we're gonna get we're gonna write a getter called get fav colors, just like that. And you can probably figure out what this getter is going to do. But first, we want to say we can actually just say const fav colors equals, and then we will say this dot, or wait, no, I'm sorry, state, since we actually, before we do that, see how we have state passed in implicitly right here as a parameter to this arrow function. Well, we get state passed in as well with these normal function bodies and whatnot, so we can pass state in just like that, and we will say state dot state.colorList.filter, and then we'll say color, and we're going to filter the color.isFav. Right? All right, cool. So now we can say return fav colors, just like that. And if we pull, now if we go back into this component, we swap this color list out, or we can keep the color list, and we can also say fav colors, and then we'll say return this, and then we just return it like we would a normal getter. So we'll say return this dot $store dot getters dot get fav colors, just like that. And now what we can do is take a look and actually just change fav colors out for color list. And what I want to do is we can close that out, bring this over here, and we're just going to actually get this in like that so we can see it happen. All right, so we'll switch out inside of our color list. We'll switch out this color list variable to the fav colors and watch it update. And you can see that it only displays aquamarine and bright green now. And so you can see that it's filtering out those and then returning that new array as the value of this statement right here. So if we take a look at Vue, or the Vue dev tools, you can see we still have both computer properties in there. For example, we have the color list that contains our full array, and then we have the fav colors, which contains our favorite colors only. So it says is fav true, and you can see they all have those, and this one says is fav false. But if we look in the fav colors array, both of them say fav is fav is true. So you can see how if we wanted to use this in multiple components, we wouldn't have to rewrite that filter function anymore. Essentially, we wouldn't have to write this logic in every single component versus just doing it inside of the Vue store. And so now we have another situation that we run into where we have, if we take a look at our color list component again, we have two computed properties in here. They're both getters, and they're both just basically returning a value as into a function or a property that's going to be under this name right here. So you can see if we had this, like, if we had 6 or a few more different things, oops, I don't want to go that far. If we had a bunch of these in here like that, you can see those are, if we had 5 or 6 different getters in here, that code can get really wet really quick. There's an easier way to do this, and we can use the map helper functions, which are built into Vuex, to help us. So let's go back to our doc really quick and take a look. Oops, I gotta open it again really quick. Here we go. Whoop, not that, no. This, and let's just open the preview for it. Spread this out, and okay, let's head down. So this is just, let's head down right here. So we have a couple of different in this example, we're pulling in state properties or whatever, but you can see the same situation. We have two different things. It's pulling in simple variable or simple properties from our Vuex store, and it's using a lot of code to do so. Well, we can simplify this because Vuex gives us 4 helper functions, right? We have map state, MapGetters, map mutations, which you won't really use all that much, if at all, and MapActions. So what these do, they basically all operate in the same functionality. Basically what it allows us to do is, instead of pulling in each individual item of these categories, Vuex will provide us with an object or an array based on how I'm getting ahead of myself. So Vuex will provide us these values in an object that we can spread into in our computed properties and our components, and essentially map them all very easily. So you can see right here, we just import the map helpers, whichever one we want to use from Vuex. So import map state, and we destructure it out of Vuex. So it's important to do that. And then you can do one. See, we have import map state in this example, and so we're going to look at map state, and in this instance we are using just computed only as map state, and it's the entire computed property is going to be this, essentially whatever is in our map state object. So we have our 3 different properties, and if we look up at our store that we have for an example here, we have color data, which is an object that contains hex and name. So let's go back down here. We have color data, and that is being aliased as color data right there. And then we also can use arrow functions inside of here to return which we want. So color data is going to be color data, right? And then, actually this is backwards. I'll have to fix that. But actually, you know what? This could probably just be destructured to the ES6 object duplicates or whatever. Anyways, so map state, it's an object, or it's our map state function that we pass an object into, and we contain our color data, hex, which is our basically state that returns color data dot hex, and name, which is basically state that returns color data dot name. And then we also can use a full-on function in here as well, instead of just arrow functions. So we get access to the state. Full phrase will be returning this dot name phrase plus state dot color data dot name. So in this example, we actually are intermixing our data from Vuex with some data locally on our Vue component right here. So this dot name phrase refers to something local, and then state dot color data dot name refers to something we're pulling in our color data from Vuex. So that's kind of a difficult solution. Well, I mean, it's not a difficult solution, my bad. It's kind of tricky to read in this situation. We'll run through this and demonstrate it in live code in just a minute here. Another thing we want to talk about is that I said there's 2 different syntaxes that we can use. We have available to us, we can use object-based, which gives us abilities to customize the names that we bring it in. Say we have a computed property that we want to bring in, like this, for instance. Since we have a nested property inside of this object, we use the object-based instead of just an array-based options item inside of these functions. Main reason because when you're using the array, it's like everything else in Vuex. It's like an array of strings corresponding to those exact matches. So when we have nested properties, it doesn't work as well. Actually, it does, but it just can be easier to have the information of where it's coming from as well, kind of as a reference point. So we can also use the array syntax. So you can see here, computed, it's the same. We'll get the same result, and well, almost the same result because we're pulling in times updated this time, and then we're pulling in hex as a string, name as a string, and times updated as a string. So that should pull in those same properties that we have right here. in the same way, but the only difference is that we don't have the ability to rename them or whatever, or alias them to a different name if we need to. That's another benefit from using the object-based syntax. So we're going to look at computed properties now, or getters or whatever. So this is kind of the example I was explaining right here, with the filtering out the completed tasks in this example. But if we scroll down, we can see that inside of here we have the same issue we were running into. So we have two different computed properties, and essentially they're doing a lot of like boilerplate code. All this except the name, and then this right here is all excess characters. So we can clean that up a little bit by using the MapGetters function. So MapGetters, like all the other map helper functions, can either take the array syntax or the object syntax for aliasing via properties and whatnot. So in this example, what we do is we spread into the MapGetters function, because that's going to be an array or an object. So to get all those properties out of that, we have to spread into it, right? And if you're not familiar with the ES6 spread operator and rest operator, go take a look at it. It's incredibly helpful. And this is an exact reason why. So you can see here we have our camel cased getter properties or whatever right here. And we can also put in our local computer properties as well, because that's what we do, spreading into it, versus up here when we just when we just use this syntax. Basically we don't have access to writing our own computed properties, because computed just gets essentially filled with whatever map state is in this instance. So that's why we can use the spread operator to use both local and Vuex properties and whatnot. So scrolling down as fast as I can. Okay, so again, this is the array syntax. We have an array. We spread into an array of strings that correspond to our different getters. Oops. Getters inside of our Vuex store. That's in the demonstration docs guide and whatnot. All right, so last thing we want to look at really quick is the object syntax or whatever. So in this situation, you can see we're aliasing these getter names to something else that we can use inside of our properties. And again, we spread into the MapGetters function because it's an object of properties we can pull out, right? So task list is getting, or our get tasks getter is being aliased to task list, and that's what we use inside of our Vue component and everything, right? So it can make things a little bit easier, a little bit more succinct and clean looking, a little bit more elegant, and whatnot. We won't talk about using map mutations because as we learned in the previous episode, we use mutations to commit updates to state. As a reminder, best practice in Vuex suggests using the action to call a mutation pattern. One of the main reasons is that mutations are synchronous, meaning that the code will run right away. We won't go into too much detail about that, about synchronous versus asynchronous in this series, but just to give a high level overview of what that means, is basically JavaScript is all synchronous by nature. So that means everything runs from top to all the code runs from top to bottom, one line of code at a time, and it only does that. It only does one thing at a time. So versus asynchronous code will be essentially code that can pause and wait for some sort of external factor to resolve, such as an AJAX request or a set timeout method. And then once that resolves or gets rejected in an error, then the code will pick up where it left off, where it needed that piece of data or variable or whatever function to finish running before it can continue. And in doing so, it doesn't block our browser, and whereas if we were doing an AJAX call synchronously and we did that, then we wouldn't be able to run any other JavaScript until that got finished. Whereas asynchronous code will pause the code that's in a code block until the operation is finished, but we can still do other JavaScript stuff at the same time while that's paused. So basically it's like, hey, we need to get this, wait until I get what I need, and then we can run the next function. So if you want to take a look at it more about sync versus async, I linked a really good article in the guide you can take a look at. And if we did need to for whatever reason call a mutation directly, we can use it by accessing this $store.commit and then passing in the name of the mutation as a string into the object, or the parentheses, the invoker into the function. Yeah. So next is we just have actions, and actions are the final core building block of Vuex, like we talked about in the past. They're basically how we communicate with our Vuex store from Vue components. We call actions that call mutations that update state. So again, there's that 3-point pattern right there with Vuex. So, and then what we were talking about before is how we can take a look at this Vuex store example. So this is an example of some asynchronous stuff that happens. And we wouldn't be able to do this in a mutation because it would resolve immediately, or would try to resolve immediately. It would just go to the next thing, and then it would be like, okay, well, we are receiving an error on this response because this fetch request never resolved. So basically what we're doing is we have some async, or some asynchronous calls that we need to make in our fetch request. Promise based, so it's waiting on either a resolve or a reject promise, and we won't go into promises on this, but ES6 basically upgraded the AJAX requests to easier to work with async, and promises are one way to do that. So, and then another example of a local async thing is a counter. So you can see that the set timeout, it won't commit this mutation until this function has resolved. This is an example of an asynchronous function native to JavaScript. It'll resolve after 1000 seconds, and then it will call or commit that mutation. All right, so those are basically kind of like some more fine-grained details about working with Vuex and whatnot. But back to what we were demonstrating. So let's go back to here. What are we having an error on? Okay, so we got rid of our computed properties, and now we're going to use the MapGetters function to map those guys to our computed object, but doing it in a lot cleaner code manner. So what we want to do is, remember, we're going to import our function. Import our map helper function. So it's going to be destructured out of Vuex, and we will just pull in MapGetters just like that, and we'll say from Vuex. That's all that takes. Now we have access to this. Now inside of our computed property here, we can actually just, like I said, we're going to spread into MapGetters, because this is going to return either an object or an array that we can spread into. So MapGetters, and that's going to be a function. We pass in an object for this demonstration. We can say, actually, you know what? Let's start with the array syntax. That might be a little bit easier. So inside of our store, we have get active color and get fave colors, right? Yeah. So instead of doing that, and I realized that this the get active color was state returning from state, but that's all right. This is going to still demonstrate the same thing. Colorless. So MapGetters, and it's going to be an array, and we will have get active color, right? And then we will also have get fave colors, just like that. Now, if we change this to, actually, let's see, let's give this a refresh. Oh, got an error here. Fave colors is not defined. Okay, so that's saying right here. So we'll change that in just a second. Or actually, let's change it right now. So instead of fave colors, we're gonna have to say get fave colors, because that's the name of the thing we're passing in. And if you look right here, it loads up again, and no issues there. We got it all figured out. Cool. And then We can even just say underneath this li, we're just going to do another li. Whoops. And in here we will give it get active color. You can see it's down there. So actually, let's change this to a div. And if you don't have the autocomplete closing tag extension for VS Code, I highly suggest you pick it up. It's super helpful. I like it a lot. Like it a lot. Bring that back. Oh geez, this is just not working out the way I wanted it to. All right, so we need to give this flex direction really quick of column, just like that. Cool. What do we got here? What do we got here? Okay, yeah, so you see right there. And if I wanted to do some local computer properties, we would just, well, I don't really have any state, so I can't really do it on here. But if we were, we could just add it in as like calc with width or something like that. And we could just say const width equals window dot inner width, like that, and we'll return, actually we'll, instead of initializing a variable, let's just return window dot inner width, just like that. And if we take a look at our Vue Dev Tools again, let's see what we have inside of this variable. So we have calc width, and that's in computed, and then we also have, see, it's in its own little category here. We'll just bring this up so we can see it a little bit easier. It's in what's known as our Vuex bindings. So that's what we get returned, and it's not exactly a computed property in the same way if we were to pull this getter in via just like a computed property that returns a getter, but it functions in the exact same way. Okay, so one thing we can do is, let's see, take a look at the rest of these. I'm going to demonstrate some other things really quick. What could we do here? Let's just let's just say console log context, just to have a demonstration here, and then we'll prefix it with an action, even though it's not going to really do anything, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll just put the context in here like that, and we will say console.log context. And I wonder what would happen if we returned the context into the Vuex store. So we're just going to do that just for the heck of it. Main being is that I don't really want to write up a whole logic tree right now for something simple, but we just want to demonstrate how we can use this with actions too. And then we can also do this with state. We'll look into a different project after this example. But basically, if we go into our, let's just go into our parent component, since we have a couple things. We're calling this, let's see, where is it? Received color. Oh, okay. We need to go into the child component, my bad, because we switched it over to use this guy right here. All right, cool. So what we need to do in this sense, since we're bringing it into methods, is a little bit different, but it works pretty much the same way. So first we want to do import destructured Vuex. So we'll destructure MapActions out of that, just like that, from Vuex. Cool. Now we have that, and we can actually come inside of our methods, and let's just bring in MapActions like that. And we want to do an object this time because I want to rename these things so I can use them. And so we will have object, and then inside of here we'll do set active color, and then we'll alias that to the string corresponding to the action. So set active color action. And this could be an example of like, okay, so we have different, we know which one is which, so because we're suffixing it or prefixing it, whatever, with the action or muta thing. But what if we don't want that inside of our actual code? Well, we can just alias it to remove it, and then we still have the same functionality, the same function, the same action running, but we have this modifier off the end of it just for elegance sake. So we have set active colored, and then we also want to do, what did we have? We're going to do console log context. So console log context, and we can just actually do that like this. And no, so that was right. Okay, so I'm sorry, I had a bleeping thought. That was right in here for our guide, because we have a property that corresponds to the string representation of a Vuex action state item. Well, no, Vuex action or mutation. So, but we don't use mutations directly like that, remember? So we have set, or we're gonna have console log context, and then we can just have to add that action in at the end of it, just like so. Cool. Now, instead of this, we can just say instead of set active color as a string like that, we can actually just set it in like this, set active color, because that's going to be, this is now corresponding to a method on our Vue object that is basically an alias for this. So I believe we just passed it in like that. We might have to do it as a string, but we're going to find out here in just a second. Alright, so let's change it to a nice purple color, just like that. Select the color as that, and let's, and it works. Woo! So yeah, not in a string, we just do the method name, and we don't invoke it or anything like that, because it gets invoked when this gets called. So cool stuff, cool stuff. All right. Okay, so let's see, what else do we got here? Let's go to the parent component, and this is getting an active data color from a getter. So let's change this to state dot active data color. All right, cool. So we have the same thing now, and then we also have, so this is being pulled in from a computed property. Well, what if we want to bring in our default? So if we have default color, again, a function that is going to have a bunch of extra boilerplate code, essentially filler code, to pull it in the same couple of different properties in the same area. So we have store.state.default color, and IntelliSense is super nice, gives us, it knows what's in there. But we can do this a little bit easier, and just to, for simplicity's sake, let's bring that in and just do default color. And we gotta change this so we don't get confused. Default color, or nada. So default color, obviously it doesn't get set as a default color, but let's see if we can. see if we can fix that. Where is this at? Background color, data active data color. Oh, okay. So what we can do is inside of our store, we'll just clear this out. I think that'll be alright. Yeah, because that's set to the default color right there. Default color is, or we can actually change this to default color. So this this string interpolation here is saying it's going to either display the active data color, or if there's nothing in there, it'll just display our default color. So we can get rid of this or because it will never be nada. So you can see they're both the same right now. And let's give this a whirl, try and change it to a nice burnt orange color. Oh, we have an error. What is our error from? vHandler set active color is not defined. Oh, where is this coming from? A child component. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to do this dot set active color. I think that should work. Let's give it a whirl. Oh, expect string as the type. Oh, you know what? This is incorrect. So what we need to do is actually, we're going to just say this dot set active color. Okay, I kind of forgot about that because I don't really use the map helpers all that much, but we'll do this. Let me just figure this out really quick. Set active color. Oops, not this dot $sign is. Set active color and payload like that. Now, does that work? Oh shoot, let's see. Troubleshooting. All right, so we got that. Oh, we don't want to do that here. I wonder if we need to do it in this dot set active color payload. All right, so let's see if we need to alias this as oh no, what the hell? I think, what am I doing? There we go. Okay. It only takes the payload as the only argument in this instance. Duh. Goodness, sorry. Okay, so instead of doing the this dot dispatch, I gotta check my notes, make sure that's accurate. Oh my goodness, how could I forget? How did I miss that? Let's see. Oh, we don't have it in there. I need to finish that. So I need to finish that after the stream. I will add in that for using the MapActions because that was kind of tricky. So again, what happened here was that we were trying to dispatch it, but what we need to do since we have it aliased is we're just calling that essentially calling that method, and it gets this argument, this only argument passed into this action function implicitly. So shouldn't be that big of a deal. And we got that set, and we can see right here. Let's give it all a refresh really quick. Spread this out. Click that. Click OK. and boom, default color stays. Okay, so what we want to do really quick before we're done for this episode, and so we're going to pull in our state using the state map state function helper. Okay, so instead of using these computed properties as such to return them, we are going to, again, we'll use import destructured vuex, and we'll pull in map state as so, and from vuex like that. Cool. Now we can say dot 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 map state, because we're going to spread into map state, and we're going to just do, let's try the array and see if that was accurate. So we'll do active color data and default color. That should be what we need if that worked. Okay, that's okay. Let's take a look at our Vue dev tools. Parent component, default color. Oh, that's because it's active data color for whatever reason it's called that. And if we click it again, we have an empty string. Cool. So that is what we were looking for, and now we can use this inside of our Vuex component as such. Let's give it a quick refresh. No errors, so that's all we needed to do to switch it out, and it still gives us the same thing. So if we were to run through our app one more time, change the color to blue, and it updates, and let's do something a little brighter so we can see, back to green. And you can see that it updates with the same values and whatnot. So pretty cool. That is basically the other side of Vuex. There are more advanced aspects of Vuex that we probably won't go into. We won't go into this episode, this series. Mainly being if you want to have modules in Vuex, you can do that. You can also create asynchronous actions by nature by returning new promises and whatnot, so that's pretty cool. You can also use, so modules are really cool. Basically, it allows you to break up your Vuex store into different modules, so you don't have just one monolithic file size, but it all essentially operates as a single source of truth. Let me see here, did we forget anything? Actually, let's just call this console log context as well. So when we send this color up, we get the, should have console log context. Did I spell it right? It should get there. It should console log it. Where is this going on? Oh, it's probably because I'm returning this. I don't know. Yep, okay. So we can't return the context. All right, so we got this. This is basically our context, which we looked at before. So we have our commit function, our dispatch function, getters, if we have that. And we have a couple getters in there, getters object, root getters, and root state, and then also our state. So the root getters and root state refer to the store.js, essentially this very top level view, state, getters, mutations, and actions. So if we had stuff in modules broken out from our store, then we would access the main store using the root getters, or root state and root getters, and that would give us access to the root state if we had any, and root getters if we had any. You can also call mutations and actions and stuff like that, but that's kind of complex when you're getting into modules. And then one thing to remember is that when we have commit, dispatch, getters, and state for inside of modules, then those are referring to the local store instance, so to speak, not the root state store instance. And then you can also do namespacing and stuff for preventing namespace collisions and whatnot. And take a look at the Vuex docs if you want to get down and dirty inside of that. All good stuff. But we're not going to do that. That's a little bit out of the scope for the skill level of this stream series. All right, so while things getting situated, just a little bit of an update. While things get situated here in life, we probably come back with one more episode, and I think we'll cover some odds and ends inside of Vuex, some smaller topics. So we'll take a look at the router, just basically basic getting up and running with the Vuex router, and there was one other thing I wanted to look at. That I don't know. I'll have to figure out when it comes to it. Well, so we'll do Vuex router, and that might be a mini stream, and then in conjunction with a separate stream, I'm gonna be getting together a little bit of a convert. I'm learning the Vue 3 function API, so we'll take one of our apps, our basic apps here, and convert it over to use the function API that's behind Vue right now under a plugin. So that's totally available to use, and we'll go through some stuff, and basically it'll be a stream where we're just kind of screwing around, not too much of an informative thing because it's subject to change at any moment, but we'll pull in the API, the function API for Vue 3, and we'll see if we can convert some of our smaller apps in this demo over to using that. It'd be cool and good learning experience for everybody. So make sure you tune into that and keep an eye out for the notifications. So far, we're still going to be doing a stream once a week. It could increase, but it definitely won't get any less than that, but it could increase depending on how scheduling goes and whatnot. So again, have more free time going on, and it'll be cool. Got a lot of stuff working, and then we'll get into our next project. So we're going to probably be looking at VueTube. I'll have to get that project finished, and in doing so, it's basically just going to be like a favorite video saver and whatnot. So I have a full-on app that I've been working with, and we've probably, for the stream, we're probably going to be toning it down, so it's not like, it doesn't take us a year to code this in live coding sessions on YouTube, but it's going to be cool. Basically, we'll be able to add different videos from YouTube based on the URL. We can take a preview of it, and just save them to different lists and stuff, and get like thumbnails of the videos and stuff. So it'll be pretty fun. You can take a look at the if you join the Discord, all the talk on that is in that the live coding series channel for VueTube. So go ahead and check that out. You can see the prototype in Figma if you're interested, and I do have about 2/3 of the so far project coded up, and once that gets going, we'll finish it out. If it's not done in time, I don't want to do this series until it's finished, to make sure that we don't get into a roadblock. I want to make sure everything's hammered out so we can go through and show all of you guys how to do it properly, smoothly. So if until that point it's not finished yet, because it is a rather larger project that we'll be embarking on, we might do a little bit of a change of pace and take a look at some React stuff, just some really basic React stuff, and playing around with some Svelte in the upcoming weeks. So definitely keep an eye out for a VueTube live coding project coming up, and make sure to follow along with that from the very start, because we're going to be writing every single line of code during a live stream. There's not going to be any code going in after the fact, unless we run into an issue for whatever reason that I need to debug off stream, and we will go back to where we left off at the end of the stream and work through the solution step by step once I figure it out. So if it comes to that, probably won't come to that because I'm pre-coding, kind of going through the prototype project as it goes right now, and so it should be, fairly smooth flowing throughout the whole thing. And yeah, so of that being said, I think that's going to do it for the end of the, what I want to do really quick is go into app.vue, and we're going to change this to, whoops, I didn't want to delete that. Vuex store. Cool. Just like that. All right, so that's going to be all we're going to do on this stream, and what was I gonna say? I was gonna go on my little spiel. So I'll push all the code up. I'm gonna finish up writing up the map actions little blurb in the guide. Make sure to take a look at that. It goes into detail with tons of examples on how to use this stuff. If you have any questions about the stream, feel free to jump in the Discord or get a hold of me on YouTube or whatever. Leave a comment in the description, or leave a comment below if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, or if I did something wrong, let me know. Give me a like. If you liked the video, give a thumbs down and tell me why. Just so we can improve things. We'll probably get the camera back rolling once I get things kind of finished, set up on things going forward in the next week or so. So it'll be cool on that. Yeah, so devlife.com, DVLFE.com. You can save 25% off your purchases by using the checkout or the coupon code RabbitWerks, all uppercase WERKS for works. Make sure to go do that and pick up some developer-based clothing. Kind of good stuff over there, really good stuff over there. And also, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know. I'm blanking. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more stuff. We're going to be getting a lot more content out coming up in the next number of months. So let me know what you want to see. Got a couple, probably get some live coding with Buddy Rabbits episodes lined up. And it should be a lot of fun. So make sure to definitely stay in the loop on that by all the stuff I've mentioned before. So that's gonna do it for today, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Live Coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. My name is Sean, and you've been with the head rabbit of RabbitWerks JavaScript, the only rabbit of RabbitWerks JavaScript. But the community is growing slowly but surely, and I appreciate all the views and all the minutes watched and all the comments and all the talk in the Discord. It means a lot, and I'm glad that it's a community where people can get some help. That sounded really stupid. I'm glad it's a community where people can get help with their code and their projects and stuff like that without any issue. So thanks again, wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful afternoon. Have a wonderful, if you're up at 3 in the morning, middle of the night. And until next time, stay awesome, keep coding, and remember that, I don't know, I think I screwed that up. Keep awesome, or stay awesome, and keep coding, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you. Peace, everybody. Have a good one. If I can just end this thing properly.